But when you look at public policy, you should not look at the intentions behind public policy. You should ask, what are the effects of public policy? And you see the effect of the minimum wage if you put yourself in the place of an employer. And currently, the minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. In some places, much higher. But put yourself in the place of an employer and ask yourself, would you hire the person who is so unfortunate to have skills that will only enable him to produce $4 worth of value an hour and pay that person 7 something an hour? Most employers look at that as a losing economic proposition. And so the effect of the minimum wage law, the initial effect, is to discriminate against the employment of low-skilled people. And if you look at the empirical data on that, it's very rich. In some of my research, I pointed out that in 1948, if you look at the unemployment rate between black and white teenagers, the unemployment rate among black teenagers was slightly less than that among whites. And it wasn't because it was a lack of discrimination at the time. It was that the minimum wage had not been raised. The inflation had repealed the minimum wage. Then also, if you look at another book I wrote in 1990, I believe, and the title is South Africa's War Against Capitalism, where I spent about 3 months in South Africa studying its labor market. And the major supporters in South Africa for the minimum wage law are racist unions that would never hire a black, that would never admit a black. And their stated reason was to have the wage high enough that employers would not hire black workers. And give me an example that in 1972, white construction workers, unskilled construction workers were making $1.91 an hour. And firms were hiring black construction workers to do the same job for 39 cents an hour. So what was the incentive of contractors? Was hire black workers because they were cheaper. And so the unions figured, well, if they can make black workers just as expensive as white workers, they would improve their bargaining position. So the minimum wage law has two dramatic effects so far as human beings are concerned. It discriminates against low-skilled employment, and it lowers the cost of discrimination. That is, whenever you deny people the right to lower the price for what they sell or raise the price for what they buy, you make the less preferred person worse off. Let me give you another example, just a really quick example. Suppose you saw a fat, old, ugly, cigar-smoking man married to a beautiful young lady. What kind of prediction would you make about that man's income? You guess it's pretty high. What is he doing? He's telling the beautiful young lady, look, I can't compete for your hand on the basis of a guy like Williams. So I'm gonna, so he says, I'm going to offset my handicap by offering you higher prices. Now, some of you would say, well, is it fair for beautiful young ladies to treat fat, old, ugly, cigar-smoking men differently than handsome men? And you say, no, we're gonna make a law. And you make a law that beautiful women had to treat fat, old, ugly, cigar-smoking men just like they treat handsome men. Then after you make a law such that, what happens to the probability of a fat, old, ugly, cigar-smoking man marrying a beautiful young lady? It goes to zilch, because you've taken away his most effective means of competing with the more preferred person. It's the same thing setting minimum prices. You deny less preferred people the most effective tool for competing with more preferred people. That is, just look at filet mignon and chuck steak. How does chuck steak compete with filet mignon? It goes for a lower price. And if you had an equal steak law, then people would buy all filet mignon and chuck steak would sit on the shelves. So it's a general principle that minimum wages discriminate against less preferred people.